Post this morning. It's kind of all over the media now that COVID is popping back up again, and it's popping up all over the world, and it's popping up in various forms. And, well, I wanted to get the straight scoop here on what's going on and where we've been and where we might be going. And so our old buddy, Dr. Eric Feigl-Ding, the epidemiologist, senior fellow with the Federation of American Scientists, the first whistleblower of the COVID pandemic, a former faculty member and researcher at the Harvard Medical School and the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, is on the line with us. His Twitter handle or X handle is Dr. Eric Ding, DRERICDING, or at FA Scientists. Dr. Feigl-Ding, welcome back to the program. I'm so glad you could join us. I'm seeing these reports of an uptick in COVID. What's going on here, and how consequential is this?
Yeah, happy to be back. Wish it wasn't always surging COVID that brings me back.
I'm with you.
Right now we've been watching. There's this increase in wastewater for a while. That's been going on for over 2 months almost. But some people didn't believe that was any signal. But we know that whenever that surges, caseloads follow because actual tested cases are quite low. There's almost very little testing. So Walgreens has one of the best state-by-state testing databases, and the positivity on the Walgreens database is just completely skyrocketing. And moreover,
positivity meaning the percentage of people who think they might have it who come in and get tested.
Percentage of people who test that get a positive result are surging.
Right.
And obviously, but that's also a function of how many people are testing.
Right.
They're unlike before, a lot of people aren't testing anymore. So among the limited samples that we're now testing, the positivity is surging. So it is one of the signals. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, like hospitalizations have also increased. Not exponentially, but quite sharply in New York and some other southern states like Georgia and in many parts of the country. The data now, hospitalizations only released by HHS like once a week. Mm. We don't have daily reporting anymore, unfortunately, because of cuts, which is also very sad. But we know it's surging, but we should get the latest update soon. And the question is, how bad? Because we know it's going up. Everything's going up. Hospitalizations are going up. Positivity is going up. Wastewater's already been up. And we think it's due to this variant because this EG5, which we nickname it Eris, this EG5 variant is now pretty much soon to be dominant. It's now, I think, 17% as of the latest CDC report, and it's going to only likely go up even higher.
So what's unique about ERA? If most of this is attributable to one particular variant, is it that variant is more competent at getting around our immune defenses?
It is, right. So there's many variants that's been floating around, but again, always there's one winner that eventually emerges that is better than the rest, and that is the one that takes over. And so presumably, just like many previous variants, this one must be much more reinfection prone. Basically, previous immunity, either to vaccine or previous infection, does not protect you anymore. It's also a little bit of waning, but if it's waning, all COVID should be surging. But Eris is surging the fastest. So we think it's not just immunity waning, it's actually much more penetrant against your past immunity wall. Basically, in this day and age, it's not about the fastest sprinting variant. It's the best pole vaulting climber variant. And so, probably vaccine efficacy is going to drop a little bit. Again, that also means previous infection protection. I think that's why I think people have to be very cognizant that, I tell people, if you were dropping masks before, you need to remask again in really crowded places, as in,
like airports,
closed trains, airplanes, when you're riding an Uber, because you don't know who else was in that taxi before you, right? And similarly, nightclubs, so please avoid that, and we really need to be mindful of ventilation because, I sometimes carry a CO2 monitor with me, and outdoor air is around 400, 450. And indoors, anywhere the CO2 rises quickly, and especially in schools, we know that there's not enough fresh air because many buildings don't have enough fresh air. And without fresh air, airborne transmission. And again, this protects you against not just COVID, but RSV, flu, many other viruses that are airborne. So I just feel like we need to raise the alarm a little bit and say, hey, this is the end of the summer. It's not the winter surge, but it's coming back. And what worries me is that, usually there's always a surge in the winter, sometimes worse than others. But to get a surge in the summer, that's very unusual because people are outdoors so much, right? But maybe with the heat, people going inside with the air conditioner, that could have the opposite effect when the heat is too hot. Right. It's like this indirect effect of climate change. When the weather's like 70 degrees out, everyone goes out. When it's freezing, people stay in. But when it's 100 or 90 or 100, 110 degrees, people go back indoors again. So I think it's also might be a function of the heat and people spreading them more indoors because of the oppressing heat outside. I think they're all really important factors.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've over the last year, I've taken a couple of flights, and I've noticed that some of the airports, like here in Portland, we've got a really modern airport. And just walking through the airport, you can literally feel air blowing on you everywhere you go all the time. I know they upgraded the air circulation system after COVID, in addition to it being a very modern airport. On the other hand, when I went through JFK, I think it was, or maybe it was Newark. No, it was JFK. The air was so still. I mean, I walked through an area where there were probably 300-400 people, and the air was so still that you could smell people's perfume from 5 and 10 feet away. I mean, it was just, there was no air circulation. And I put on a mask, and this was months ago when nobody was wearing masks and everybody thought COVID was over. And I put on a mask, going through that part of that airport just because I just didn't feel safe. Yeah. And it wasn't even COVID. I mean, I just didn't want to get the flu, for God's sake.
Yeah, I think that's a right radar to have, because anytime the air gets stale, it gets a little dank, it means there's no turnover of the air. The HVAC isn't running, the outdoor air is not replacing it. So anytime I feel the air is getting stale indoors, I know that this is a risk, especially if there's a lot of people. So I mask up then, and I like many people, scientists, we carry this CO2 monitor. And by the way, CO2, it's shown it's not just as a proxy of ventilation and therefore airborne risk, but it's also known that if you're in a room for a very long time, higher CO2 levels decreases your cognitive function. Like you literally, this is a Harvard study. Your brain literally slows down for processing speed, verbal, math processing, and and when you do tests, the test accuracy is lower, and it's not like you have to be at like 3,000 CO2. You have this kind of decrease for every 500 unit increase. So like if outdoor air is 450, and right here it's like showing about 1,000. That's showing significant decreases in your cognitive function in when a room is not, well ventilated. So this goes beyond just COVID. If you want a fresh thinking, cognitively maximally functioning brain, you need to improve your ventilation.
There you go. That just makes perfect sense. We're talking with Dr. Eric Feigl-Ding. You can stay with us for a second, right here, Dr. Feigl-Ding?
Yep.
Okay, great. Correlation and causation are different things. Let's talk about that. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.